Okay, toss-up number 1. A poem in this collection claims that the real need of the speaker's heart is for Lady Macbeth, and it opens, "It will never be the beauties that vignettes show." Another poem in this collection contrasts how large the world is by lamplight versus how small it is in the eyes of memory. Its introduction describes how an Ennui's eyes brimming with spontaneous tears, and is addressed to the hypocrite reader. It includes a voyage, player 5, or no, player 2.
Flowers of Evil.
The Fleur du Monde, yes. Okay, 10 points. Toss-up number 2. A speech given in support of this policy claims that if cities are burned down, they will be rebuilt so long as farms are not burned as well. This
Like
policy...
sorry,
all toss-ups. All toss-ups.
Buzz. Bimetallism.
Yes. Okay, toss-up number 3. A ruler of this dynasty was frightened by the sight of a chicken standing on a ceremonial vessel and was named Wu Ding. A god worshipped by and partially sharing a name with this dynasty has a name translating as Lord on High. Debate exists over whether the Xia dynasty preceded it. This dynasty's final capital was at...
the Shang dynasty?
Yeah, that is correct. Alright, toss-up number 4. An extension of this framework concludes that a government cannot maintain a fixed exchange rate and autonomous monetary policy if money is allowed to cross borders. That...
Iceland.
That is correct.
Nice.
Alright, toss-up number 5. Computer yet to be on board. The British ornithologist who wrote the first book titled A Dictionary of Birds had the surname?
Ian Fleming.
That is incorrect. A scientist with this surname calculated the force needed to maintain a revolving object's trajectory while increasing its speed in his theorem of revolving orbits, and he also names a method for approximating the roots of a function by repeated calculations. That scientist with the surname claimed that every action has an equal and opposite reaction in his third law. Player 5. That is correct. Toss-up number 6. A contemporary variety of this programming language is sometimes called Postgres. Initializing...
SQL.
That is correct.
And
For power.
Computer and computers.
Toss-up. Number 7. A character created by this author recalls a time when he had to paint white, yellow, and green lines, and then had to paint the words "Eye Protection Area" in a play by this writer. A man steals a work pass book from a corpse and assumes his identity. He wrote a drama in which 2 servants practice ballroom.
Fugger.
10 points. Toss-up. W.G. Cumberbatch argued that the effect of novelty was not accurately screened out during the study. A follow-up to it tested whether its results were consistent with vicarious reinforcement. A secondary finding of the study was that males are more likely to imitate same-sex models than females. Testing his formulator's social learning theory, its first stage involved children observing adults while displaying violent...
Bogle doll.
That is correct. 10 points. Toss-up. This monarch agreed to give his vote for the Holy Roman Empire to Francis, the Duke of Lorraine, via the terms of the Treaty of Dresden. He ordered the construction of the Sanssouci Palace, where he often separated...
Frederick Green.
That is correct. For power. Oh no, 10 points, sorry. Toss-up number 10. A character in this play has his fortune told by drawing a strip of paper from a helmet, choosing a symbol of death that has a black cross drawn on it. In this play, a cook is
So that's
time. -5.
I don't know.
As being a man named Peter Piper by a prostitute. It ends with Catherine beating a drum and being killed, with the title character having lost all of her offspring and needing to follow a departing regiment to maintain her business. For 10 points, name this example of epic theater set during the 30 Years' War by Bertolt Brecht.
Mother Courage and Her Children.
That is correct. Toss-up. In a speech, this leader claimed that the yokes of ignorance, tyranny, and vice were all equally dangerous, and that people of mixed descent differed from the Romans because they lacked a common background. He proposed a hereditary senate in an address given to the Congress of Angostura. He advocated killing those who did not support his cause in the decree of war to the death.
Bolivar.
That is correct. 10 points. Toss-up. In a book based on this novel, Arabella accepts a proposal of her cousin Glanville after throwing herself into the Thames to escape from some attackers. Charlotte Lennox wrote a female version of this novel. An attempt to recreate this novel through a line-by-line immersion is undertaken by Pierre Menard in it.
Don Quixote.
That is correct. A poem included in this book begins, "Stars concealed by black clouds can shed no light. A character in this book is first seen wearing a robe embroidered with a staircase and the letters Pi Theta. A translation of this text into Old English was made by Alfred the Great of Wessex, written while its author was imprisoned on the orders of Theodoric the Great. It lauds virtue. Player 4.
Consolation of philosophy.
That is correct. Toss-up number 14. The artist of this painting included his signature on a plaque on a tub at its extreme right. This was the first painting commissioned for the Chamber of Alabaster. Much of its landscape was completed by Titian, and it contains the earliest depiction of Chinese porcelain in Western art. The only person sleeping in this painting is Lotus, who is presumably about to be the target of Priapus's advances, and it also shows Jupiter, Neptune, and other figures inspired by Ovid. For 10 points, name this final mass...
Bacchus and Ariadne.
That is incorrect. For 10 points, name this final masterpiece of Giovanni Bellini. And, oh, yeah, player 1.
Bacchus.
No, the Feast of the Gods. Toss-up number 15. This scientist included a description of a fly's eye in a book that contained the biological definition of the word cell and used illustrations to showcase the power of the microscope. The chief surveyor, Christopher Wren, first announced the discovery of his best-known law as a Latin...
So, like, hook.
That is correct. For 10 points. Toss-up. These formations are more likely to develop in areas with a specific yield of higher than 15 or 20%. An equation central to the study of these formations yields the conclusion that velocity is equal to P over...
Aquifer.
And that is correct. Toss-up. This company has been responsible for driving down the cost of the Ariadne 5 project, and its current president and COO is Gwynne Shotwell. This company launched a lawsuit against ULA, arguing that it should have the right to bid for defense contracts. Its product lines include the Dragon and the Falcon, with the Falcon, player 1.
SpaceX.
And that is correct.
That's a really good answer.
Toss-up, number 18. A central cavalry charge during this battle was conducted by the Eureka Hussars and targeted a feature nicknamed the Death Redoubt. At this battle, a series of fletches or earthworks used in this battle were designed by Peter Bagratin. Michel Barclay de Tolly was one of the commanders of the defending side of this battle, along with Mikhail Kutsov. For 10 points, name this battle, after which Napoleon turned...
Battle of Borodino.
That is correct. Toss-up. A painting by John Blake White shows a story whereby this man caused a British officer to switch sides by offering him a meal during a negotiation. Pond Bluff was the estate of this commander, who used a surprise attack to win the Battle of Black Mingo. He established a militia for the purposes of harassing enemy supply lines after the Waxhaw massacre. For 10 points, name this guerrilla leader active in the Player 1.
Fox.
-5. During the Revolutionary War, who was nicknamed the Swamp Fox.
South Carolina.
The correct answer is Francis Marion. Toss-up number 20. The protagonist of a story by this author decides that he wants to be a poet as his New Year's resolution, so he writes 2 quatrains about an egg. That story is titled after the rubaiyat of his recurring character Reginald. He created a character who is trying to become acquainted with the Sappleton family. The line, "Romance at short notice," was her specialty, ends his story in which Frampton Nuttall is convinced that he has seen 3 ghosts return from player 4, -5. From an ill-fated hunting party. For 10 points, name this British humorist who wrote The Open Window.
Saki.
And toss-up 21. 2 members of this family led the charge to distribute white feathers to civilians who did not enlist in World War I. A member of this family was a prominent supporter of Ethiopian independence in the UK and later moved to that country at the invitation of Haile Selassie. The followers of a member of this family caused the passage of the Cat and Mouse Act by staging hunger strikes. The matriarch of this family founded the WSPU. For 10 points, give this family that included Emmeline, an advocate of British...
Pankhurst.
And that is correct.
Right.
Toss-up. An oft-used set of 2 examples of this law include graphite diamond and the process of steam reforming. A parameter of a lattice can be calculated using an application of this law in the...
Player
5.
Passes law.
That is correct. Humans are now at 135 and the computer is at 45. An entry in this game series introduced the cloud-dwelling race of the Butios. A mod for this game was developed by Gabriel Trovato, who took the pseudonym Rai. Strategies in its most recent release are generally classified as being wall or tall. That game was the first Player 6.
Civilization.
That is correct.
Oh, makes sense.
Toss-up. Early versions of these objects popular in Britain were called the aerial and the ordinary. Marcel Duchamp's first ready-made used a part from this type of object, which was placed upon a stool. The first, Player 3.
Like a wheel,
I will prompt.
like a bicycle wheel.
That is correct. Toss-up. 7 unnamed states were created in this country as a part of the new September 2015 Constitution. Also in 2015, protesters blockaded this country's southern border after it was struck by a 7.8 magnitude earthquake. In 2008, its Communist Party won a pivotal election after which a 3-day holiday was declared to celebrate the abolition of its monarch.
Nepal.
And that is correct. Toss-up. Configurations of these entities are changed or switched in proton tunneling. The primary difference between smart rubber and normal rubber is that smart rubber only makes use of these entities and not similar counterparts.
Hydrogen bond.
That is correct. Toss-up. The owner of this team is a Thai retail magnate who made his fortune in the duty-free shipping business. Its coach was nicknamed the Tinkerer for constantly altering his lineup. A statue of Richard III was decorated with the flag of this team because the king's body was interred in a cathedral near where it plays its home games. Led by Jamie Vardy, this team is also known as the Foxes, and they were given...
Like Leicester City.
That is correct.
Wow.
Good soccer.
Toss-up. John Cox, Stephen Ross, and Mark Rubenstein developed a model to evaluate the cost of these entities that is based on the binomial theorem. Robert Merton won a Nobel Prize for his work on...
Options.
That is correct. Toss-up number 29. A passage on this activity notes that voting turnout in the 1994 elections was 25% lower than turnout for it. Groups formed for this activity are contrasted with those that form tertiary associations. A book title for this activity discusses the decline of social capital. Player 5.
Bowling.
And that is correct. Toss-up number 30, after which we'll have a score check. In this country, an artist placed a horse in front of a pillar in the print Night Shining White. An artwork from this country was accompanied by a monograph that describes a wall of gold and features the Rainbow Bridge in its center. Inkwash painting was pioneered in this country.
Japan.
-5.
Wait.
And it was the origin of the bird and flower paintings that print from this country depicts, I mean, it's not like the computer can hear you, you can talk all you want. Print from this country depicts a riverside during a spring festival. A ruler from here was buried along with the terracotta army. For 10 points, name this country where porcelain was produced during the Ming Dynasty.
So how does it know when the question is being read?
I push a button for every word. Okay, all right, and that's the half. At the half, score of human 190, computer 65.
So let's close this thing out.
Yep. All right, toss-up number 31. This actor twice portrayed a man who demands a 15,000-pound bribe to conceal his homosexual affair with a deceased person, leading to his sons stuffing him in their father's coffin. A character played by this actor is responsible for designing the Sentinels and is named Boulevard Trask. In a current role, he plays a man who shoots his father with a crossbow while in a bathroom. For 10 points, name this.
Peter Dinklage.
That is correct. Toss-up. In a story from this myth system, a god was forced to lead a band of dwarfs into combat after a king's daughter had fallen in love with him while he was disguised as an insane vegetable seller. In this myth system, the motion of the moon was caused when it was slapped by a rabbit, and mankind was created after the fifth sun when a god retrieved a bag of bones. Player 1.
Aztec.
That is correct. Toss-up. A condition caused by an example of this entity can be diagnosed by the presence of 1433 protein in the cerebrospinal fluid. The replication of these entities can be explained by the heterodimer model, though it is difficult to understand that replication without either extreme reaction rates or the formation of amyloid. Stanley Prusner first discovered these entities, which are responsible for Scrapie Crew and...
Prion.
That is correct. Toss-up. A character in this play repeatedly expresses disdain for genetic engineering because it will get rid of spontaneity of life. That character later relates a story about a youth who went insane after killing both of his parents. In this play, a fake gun is fired, turning into an umbrella. In this play's third act, the...
Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf?
And that is correct. Toss-up. Number 35. In this religion, each person's primordial spirit is comprised of main and assistant parts, and it teaches that what differentiates humans and animals is sentimentality. Its three core principles are truth, compassion, and forbearance. The cosmic orbit is one of this religion's 5 different types of exercises. Its name translates as law wheel practice.
Falun Gong.
That is correct. Toss-up. A people who live in this country use their word for begin. The southern Nibeli people live in this country where the trust feed massacre posed a threat to its first free elections. In this country, the Inkatha Freedom Party was...
South Africa.
That is correct. Toss-up. The duet Vedro Sempre La Pace is the climax of a piece this composer wrote for the wedding of a French king, La Gloria y Emino. The work of this composer inspired Astor Piazzolla's Extacones Porteñas. A set of pieces by this composer accompanies a series of sonnets and uses a viola to represent a barking dog. J.S. Bach rearranged 6 of the 12 concerti found in this man's...
Antonio Vivaldi.
That is correct. Toss-up 38. This director oversaw a scene in which a man chooses a replacement for a deceased man when a flipped coin lands on its side next to a third party's name. In a movie directed by this man, a woman succeeds in flagging down a car to hitchhike by showing the driver her leg. He directed a movie in which a senator filibusters a dam bill until he passes out for 10 points. Player 1.
What's his name? I don't know. Hitchcock?
-5. Name this director of It Happened One Night and Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, which starred Jimmy Stewart, much like this director's film, It's a Wonderful Life.
Frank Capra.
That is correct. Alright, toss-up 39. At this battle, a commander on the winning side transferred his command to the Astoria after abandoning his flagship. Prior to this clash, evidence that the code of the losing side had been cracked was established by a falsified story about a failing water system. A planned invasion of the Aleutian Islands actually began the day before this battle started. Player 1.
Midway?
That is correct. Toss-up. A man of this name was the Duke of Aosta for much of the second half of the 19th century and was allowed to return to Turin per the terms of the Congress of Vienna. The forces of a monarch of this name won the Battle of Castelfiardo against the papacy, and that king met with Napoleon III at Player 1.
Victor Emmanuel?
That is correct. Toss-up. This author's wife wrote about Sister Miriam being found dead in the ivory tower in her novel Quiet as a Nun. Her first book to feature Jemima Shore. A play by this author includes a leaky roof which drips into a bucket, prompting a visitor to ask, what happens when the bucket fills up? Antonia Fraser was married to this author of The Caretaker, who wrote a drama in which...
Pinter.
That is correct. Toss-up. This scientist names a constant that is equal to Loschmidt's constant times RT over P and is equal to the... Player 5.
Boltzmann.
-5. Faraday constant over the elementary charge. A project name for the scientist is seeking to define the kilogram using a sphere of silicon. His namesake law states that holding temperature and pressure constant, equal volumes of gases have an equal number of molecules for 10 points. Name this Italian chemist who also names the number of molecules in a mole of a gas equal to 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd.
Avogadro constant.
Yeah, so... Yeah, I
that's
think
fine,
that would be
that's fine,
acceptable.
That's very acceptable.
By any YouTube rules, I think it's fine.
Yeah. Okay, toss-up 43. Two concepts in this doctrine were characterized as being divisible and indivisible. This doctrine was defended in a letter to Elizabeth of Bohemia that claimed it was facilitated by the pineal gland, a version of the stance. Player 5.
Dualism.
And that is correct. Toss-up. In an episode of this television show, Henry Bemis shortchanges a customer because he is too busy reading a copy of David Copperfield. In another episode of the series, Janet Tyler undergoes a series of 11 cosmetic surgeries. A character claims that that's not fair. That's not fair at all. After breaking his glasses at the end of its episode time...
Plasma.
That is correct. Toss-up. Number 45. This man sometimes names the residue theorem. The distribution usually named for this man has no defined mean or variance. The conditions for a complex player 3.
Same,
Time. A complex function to be holomorphic are given by a set of equations named for him and Bernhard Riemann. He is the alphabetically prior namesake of the statement that the product of the magnitude of two vectors is greater than their dot product. For 10 points, name this French mathematician who names an inequality with Hermann Schwarz.
Augustin Louis Cauchy.
And that is correct.
Yeah, why was the,
I knew it was a C name, I think.
are there other residue theorems?
It's just sometimes called just the residue theorem.
Yeah.
Instead of like,
I should have buzzed on that one.
Toss-up number 46. A painter from this country had his painting of a dying soldier borrowed from an art show here, along with paintings depicting a pyramid of skulls. An artist, player 4.
Russia.
And that is correct. Toss-up. At the end of the story, its title character concludes that the real world is imaginary and prepares for his inevitable funeral. The story's protagonist meets a woman who demands 50 guilders as a dowry, which he obtains by taking up a collection amongst the townspeople of Francoul. An evil spirit tells his title character to urinate in the town's bread in order to get revenge on how people have deceived and made fun of him and his whole life. It was translated from Yiddish to English by Saul.
Keppel the Fool.
And that is correct. Toss-up 48. The Ne'ilah prayer is only said during the conclusion of this holiday.
Yom Kippur.
That is correct. Toss-up 49. As part of this initiative, a high-speed rail line called the Metroliner was built between New York and Washington by the newly formed Department of Transportation. This initiative led to the creation of community action agencies in low-income areas, and it included the development of the Office of Economic Opportunity as part of its Player 1.
Great Society.
That is correct.
Oh, good. I thought it was going to be like a New Deal thing. And
Yeah.
it's just not happening yet.
Toss-up number 50. A character created by this author is helped by a Chinese doctor during a sea voyage to California and later disguises herself as a homosexual boy while accompanying a troupe of prostitutes managed by Joe Bronecrusher. A father whips his daughter after discovering her affair with a communist in a novel by this writer that opens with the death of Rosa the Beautiful. Eliza Summers is the protagonist of her novel, Daughter.
Isabel Allende.
And that is correct.
important character.
Toss-up 51. Frank Crowninshield claimed that the title of this piece of artwork, taken alone, was virtually meaningless. A version of this work of art was owned by Edward Steichen, who took several photographs of it that were published as prints of 4 snapshots on one page. This artwork was classified under kitchen utensils and hospital supplies. For 10 points, name the sculpture supposedly depicting an avian. Player 1.
Bird's face.
That is correct.
Yeah, makes sense.
Toss-up 52. A dispute arose among this group of people because only one of them possessed a delicious honey. A member of this group left a tent in search of a missing necklace, and when she was returned to the camp by a nomad, a rumor started that she was having an affair with her rescuer. A woman who lost her virginity at age 9 belonged to it, as did a woman who divorced a former slave to marry his father. They are called Mothers of the Believers. For 10 points, name this group of women who are married to...
Bugs.
Margaret Mead.
Amazing.
Married the Prophet of Islam.
Buzz.
Player 1.
Wives of Muhammad.
That is correct. The score is humans 315, computer 145.
We can't win. I can't lose now. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Toss-up. This novel relates the story of a tortoise that convinced the birds to give it feathers so it could fly to the heavens and steal the birds' best food and wine. A character in this novel loses 9 children in early childhood because she is haunted by an evil spirit. The main character of this novel accidentally sets off a gun at a funeral, earning him a 7-year exile, and had player 6.
Oh, that's me.
Yes.
Things fall apart.
Yes, that is correct. Toss-up. The fundamental epistle was written by the founder of this religion, which believes in 3 different waves of creation. A word translating. Player 1.
Baha'i faith.
-5. Translating its platform, the Book of Giants was used to formulate doctrines of this religion, such as reverence of the King of Honor. The idea of the good is represented by light in this faith. St. Augustine was a convert to Christianity from it for 10 points. Named this early dualistic religion that competed with Zoroastrianism. Okay, toss-up. The right side of a painting by this artist depicts the late former wife, the current wife, and the daughter of the Burgermeister of Basel. That painting by this man shows Mary and the infant Jesus in front of a scallop shell. This painter of the Darmstadt Madonna placed a celestial and a terrestrial globe on the top shelf of a stand above a skull rendered in player 5.
Holbein.
That is correct. Or prompt.
What's his name? Holbein the Younger.
Yes. Toss-up. Though Great Britain owed this country millions of pounds for grain exports it made during World War II, it was able to withhold payments via the terms of the Rocca-Runciman Treaty. During the Great Depression, this country experienced the infamous decade. The Casa Rosada is the traditional home of its president, and the Descamisados, or shirtless ones, supported one player 5.
Argentina.
That is correct.
That's one that was spoiled on the picture.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, toss-up 57. For these devices, Hayes' law was designed as a specific version of Moore's law. The single avalanche...
What?
Player 7?
Transistors?
-5. I had the same neg during playtesting, so... single avalanche photon type of these devices can be used to measure noise in hardware devices. Edison's law was used in the development of the first of these devices, which was constructed using a vacuum tube. Today, their most common type consists of a semiconductor conducted to a p-in junction. For 10 points, name these devices, which only allow current to flow primarily in one direction, and that come in light-emitting varieties.
Diode.
That is correct.
Man, that's such a hose. That's such a hose.
It's like an analogy to Moore's law.
Yeah.
It's like
Toss-up.
not Moore's law.
A genus within this phylum, Ophirus, uses chemicals in the process of pseudocopulation by which it mimics the scent of a female bee. The Peruvian city of Mayobamba is known for the number of species from this family that live nearby. Almost a third of all monocots belong to this family. Bobophyllum and Epidendrum are genus names within this family, which also includes the vanilla plant. It has nearly 28,000 species, making it one of the 2 largest families of plant life. For 10 points, player 7.
Orchids?
And that is correct.
Oh, yeah. Orchid. Vanilla is definitely an orchid.
Toss of 59, penultimate. A location envisioned by this author is a town that is built on top of a reflecting mirror lake. In the first novel of his Our Ancestors trilogy, a soldier takes on 2 personalities called the bad and the good after being hit by a cannonball. This author of the Cloven...
Calvino.
And that is correct. Toss up the last. The Wandsworth and Battersea objects of the Latini culture are this type of
Cells.
Oops.
-5 weapon. Greek hoplites used one called the aspis, while the Normans used the kite variety of these weapons. The lack of these weapons explained why phalanx formations were vulnerable on their right side. The Zulus fashioned them using a single ox hide harnessed to...
Yeah, just spears.
Oh, incorrect. Shields.
Oh.
All right, final score, 355 humans, 160 computer.
Nice. Good work, humans.
Not obsolete yet, I guess.